Hey, it's Sam, and if you're looking to shift your astrology practice and understanding into high gear, or accelerate your understanding of your place in the cosmos, who you are, why you're here, then make sure to watch this entire video, because in this video I'm going to outline the exact, complete system of learning astrology that I've been teaching now for close to 10 years. And that system can help you right now, at whatever level you're at, to not only better understand astrology, but better understand yourself. So download the 8 spokes of the astrology wheel handout, because I'll be going over that in this video. Also, I'm going to unravel for you exactly what you need to do to shift both internally and externally in order to learn anything successfully. That's what you see on the board behind me. And by the way, I know a little bit about teaching astrology too, in case you don't know. The author of Yoga and Vedic Astrology, the book, and also the founder of the American Academy of Vedic Art and Science. My Vedic Astrology certification course is a system that close to 200 students, just like you, have passed through to become certified Vedic astrologers. Now, many of those students are in practice changing the lives of others and living a more connected life, more connected to their higher purpose. One of the biggest shifts those students experienced is to relearn exactly what astrology even is. So, here's the thing. Astrology is not just some fortune-telling system, although it can totally help you navigate the important changes in life. More importantly, it's the science that answers the most basic questions we all have in life. Remember those innocent questions you had as a child? Who am I? Why am I here? Why is any of this here? Well, guess what? You've never stopped asking those questions. But now you ask them in different ways. Now the questions sound like this. What am I supposed to be doing with my life? Will I ever find my soulmate? What's my purpose? You ask these questions instead because you've even given up ever finding out an answer to those early, deep, and primal questions. So again, ask yourself, who am I? Why am I here? Why is any of this here? Do you know the answers? Well, truth is, the students who've graduated from my certification course have a pretty good idea now about how to answer these questions. They took a chance and believed in a proven system methodically laid out for them in the course. Now, many of them are living a life more connected to higher truth and wisdom. Many of these students were like me, and maybe like you as well. They were feeling lost in a confusing world with very few spiritual solutions or answers. Many had given up on ever finding a sensible answer to life's deeper mysteries. So again, I'm going to be answering those questions and laying out the system of learning in this video and in several more videos over the next few weeks. So this is going to shift your astrology studies from confusing, surface-level, online video snacking, as I call it, to a focused, integrated, and repeatable system that always gets consistent results. And I know that's hard to believe because you're used to being confused and not having things work all the time. But when you start getting these consistent results, you can always help others and also help yourself. Now, for those who aren't interested in serious study, you'll also really enjoy these videos, so stay tuned and share this video with others if you see that it's something that you're interested in. So what does it take to shift your astrology practice and understanding into high gear, and at the same time connect you with a more inspired life purpose? Well, those answers are directly connected to the 3 crucial steps to success that I have on the board behind me, and I'm going to get to that in a minute. But before, I need to back up a little bit because, like most, you're probably putting the cart before the horse. What I mean to say is that first you need to examine what you even think astrology is, or for that matter, who you are. Because actually they're the exact same thing. Meaning, if you think astrology is only a way to help you get what you want and avoid life's problems, then you're also only defining yourself as this limited being stuck in the matrix. And no matter what any astrologer or astrology teacher tells you, there will be this limit placed on it. So first I want you to try on the idea that your whole concept of what astrology might be needs to be expanded. You see, what happens is so often we try to put things in these little boxes based on our limitations. Then we're disappointed when those things fail to answer the big questions we have. I've been teaching these astrological concepts for more than 10 years now, as I said, And I've actually put more emphasis on how to teach astrology and navigating these minefields that I know you have, and I know that they often start with what astrology even is. So let me also be clear about this. I totally understand why you see astrology the way you do. You're not used to hearing it described as the study of the answer to life's deeper mysteries and all of that. You're used to hearing it described as something up there doing things to us down here, with very little precision about how it works or why it works. And again, I'm going to be addressing both of these issues in the video, but also you're used to thinking that astrology is so complicated and so hard to learn. Frankly, it's not. Astrology should be like any other subject you can learn in a university. Instead, it's positioned as something that only the gifted can learn. Now, of course, this lowers the standards on teachers who've not really learned how to teach it systematically, or the organizations that teach. So, as I said, I've spent most of my time in the last 10 years learning how to teach astrology better. So not only is it more systematically, but it's more affordably, more conveniently, more traditionally. And here's the most important part. This course can be done from the comfort of your home without sacrificing any of the human connection, and at a fraction of the cost of other certification courses. So again, if you're not interested in getting certified, you'll still really enjoy these videos. So no matter where you live, or whether you're a serious astrology student looking to connect to the deeper roots of the tradition, or you're a yoga student who wants to expand your understanding of karma and the connection to astrology, heck, I wrote the book Yoga and Vedic Astrology. Or maybe you're using Ayurveda or the principles to help you in your life, and you're looking to integrate divine timing into your life. Or maybe you're just someone interested in connecting your limited mind to the cosmic mind. In any of those situations, you want to stay tuned over the next few weeks, because I'm going to unroll the 8 spokes in the Vedic astrology wheel, and that can really help you understand yourself better, whether you plan on studying with me or not. So now let's get at these 3 crucial steps for success. Let me just unpeel them one by one. First, principles, the natural laws we must honor. Second, techniques or strategies and methods. These are the things that we deploy that take us where we want to go. Third are outcomes. Outcomes are the results we're looking for. So let me use an example of something that we've all mastered to illustrate how this process works. And understand, this is the process you always use. Anything that you've ever learned to do well, that you've learned to become successful at, it's because you're honoring these 3 things in the right order. So let's examine, again, something that we've all mastered, eating. I know that sounds crazy, satisfying your hunger. So it might sound weird, but stick with me a little bit. You've become a master at this. Your success at eating is guaranteed by now. Otherwise, you wouldn't be alive, right? And so the principles that come into it are things like time, distance, gravity, cycles of hunger, survival. These are actually universal principles. When I say gravity, it means that you're stuck here on the earth. Time, you only have so much time. Distance, you have to be close to a food source. Now, methods are things like buying food, buying a refrigerator, as I say, living near a food source. It's easy to think this is kind of strange, but these things aren't random. You don't live in the jungle somewhere very far away from food, because you honor this principle of survival. And you have to honor things like time and distance. If you live too far away from a food source, then your outcome, which is to get up and go to the refrigerator to satisfy your hunger, or go to a restaurant, which is also a method, but the outcome that you want, which is to satisfy your hunger, will not happen. And so we measure success in this endeavor by our hunger being satisfied. So that's the success. When you want to satisfy your hunger, you need to be able to, you must honor things like gravity, time, the cycles of hunger, knowing when they're going to come, and then you have to have methods like getting up and going to the refrigerator so that you can satisfy your hunger, which is the outcome that you want, and that's how you measure success. Now, again, it might seem strange, but astrology for me and my students is frankly just as simple as satisfying your hunger is for you at this point. There is certainty with success. when we're looking for an answer, astrologically, we just run something that's just as certain as you making sure that you have food. So in that case, the principles would be things like gunas, elements, karma, evolutionary processes. These are universal principles that are outlined in the Vedic texts that we all must honor and that operates through astrology. And then methods are things like evaluating the dignity of planets, looking at the cycles and the dashas and the timing, and the transits in the sky and the yogas, and those methods that show us, just like the method of getting up and going to the refrigerator, buying a refrigerator. And then the outcome is to correctly evaluate what is happening in Mary Jane's relationships, taking her from, why are all men jerks, to a deeper realization of the thing all those jerks have in common, which is her and her tendencies. So in that case, the success would be empowering her to see things in a more conscious light. And so again, it's the same kind of thing. You can engineer success when things are taught correctly, and everything that you have learned correctly, think of something that you went to college for, or something that you master, probably something that you're making a living at, it's because there are these universal principles, techniques, and outcomes that you follow. And so you've been able to engineer your success. Success is a certainty. And it's engineered intentionally because you learned it correctly. Now, again, when you understand astrology correctly, you can also engineer that certainty, engineer that success, and get consistent results, just as you engineer consistent results when you're hungry and you want to eat. And by the way, you have to understand this. Learning to survive and eat and whatnot isn't something you always knew. You had to be taught this. You didn't always know how to do it. But it was so primal and so long ago that you've forgotten. By now, it's second nature. But get this, for me and my students, and maybe for you too, astrology can be just as second nature. After you've done it enough and you've looked at enough cases and all of that, you will be able to do it as well. So stick around again later in this video when I go over the 8 spokes of the astrology wheel. That's what allows you to engineer your success just as well with astrology as you can with eating food. And as I said, all my teachings are based on these 8 principles, and over the next couple of weeks I'm going to discuss each of the 8 spokes in great detail. But today I'm going to give you the overview of the entire system, the 8 spokes of Vedic astrology, and check that out now. Okay, so now I'm going to go over how to do Vedic astrology correctly. This overview that you should have downloaded, and it really revolves around 8 spokes of a wheel. And I use this symbol of a wheel very intentionally because I see it as a way to go from the surface to the periphery of an issue. The wheel is a beautiful symbol that has an outer portion where, as they used to say, the rubber meets the road, which moves us forward. But then at the center of every wheel, there must be an unmoving axis. And astrology metaphorically really suits this whole concept. And so the 8 spokes of the astrology wheel starts with history and what is astrology. So over the next several videos, I'm going to talk about each one of these things in enormous depth. But first of all, when we want to talk about history, we want to understand the procession of how Vedic culture, what is also called Sanatana Dharma, or at least that's the philosophy, started with what we call the Vedas. And then the Vedas, there were 4 Vedas. Then we have the Upanishads, which is also called the cream of the Vedas, and that's the source of many mantras and other things. Then we have what are called the Puranas, which are another group of texts. Then these mythic stories, these epic stories, the lives of those who lived like Krishna and Lord Rama. Then those things became the Vedic sciences like Ayurveda, Yoga, and Jyotish. So again, it's always important to start with the history, where the tradition started, and to understand that in all Vedic sciences, and the prevailing underlying concept is called Sanatana Dharma, and it started with the Vedas and then moved through all the way down through these other texts and writings, culminating in the sciences, of which Vedic astrology is one of the sciences. So I'll have an in-depth study on the history and also the cosmology of astrology and the astronomy behind it in the next video. But then after the history, we see how those things from the Vedas and the Sanatana Dharma was codified into frameworks. And again, these are analogous to those universal principles that I talked about in the 3 crucial steps to success. Those principles are shown in things like the 3 gunas. This is a principle of Vedic teaching, the 5 elements. This is a principle of Vedic and Sanatana Dharma teachings. The 4 purusarthas, Dharma, Artha, Kama, and Moksha. The caste, warrior, worker, merchant, teacher. The truth related to karma, which is the results of our actions. All of these things are absolutely crucial if we're going to learn astrology or yoga or Ayurveda or actually anything about life, because they're universal principles, by the way. They're not just principles that are related to Vedic teachings or India. They're actually the same universal principles that underpin all metaphysics. And so I'll have an entire video dedicated to unraveling all of these things, the gunas, tamas, rajas, sattva. Not just describe them in a sort of general way, but actually go deeply into how they are related to astrology. And, for instance, like the truth of our karma, the results of actions, the evolutionary processes behind each of these gunas. We evolve things from form, passion, or emotion into spirit. That's the evolutionary process. Everything is made of the 5 elements: earth, water, fire, air, and space. And we see this in the astrology chart. So again, I'll have an entire dedicated video to breaking out all of these things. The 4 purusarthas, Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha, they're very related to the astrology houses. The caste, very related to the astrology signs, etc. So stay tuned for those videos. They're upcoming. And then after we learn all those frameworks, then we have to plug in all of the specific concepts of astrology: planets, signs, houses, and nakshatras. So I'll talk about each planet, the givers of wisdom, sun through the nodes. Then the signs are the feeling of the planets. There are 12 signs. They represent the masculine and feminine quality of the planets. They're very much related to that rajasic guna. So just like we had the 3 gunas above here, where we had tamas, rajas, and sattva, we will see that framework transferred into the planets are the qualities of sattva or wisdom, the signs are the qualities of rajas or feeling, and the houses are the qualities of tamas or form of karma based on the ascendant, 4 purusarthas evolving. So we will see these frameworks shown much more specifically in this class, where we talk about the planet, signs, houses, and nakshatras. So after planet, signs, and houses, then we get into nakshatras, which are the spiritual and cosmic potential, which refer us back to the Vedic deities, the triggering of karmas, subtle attributes. Then we'll talk about the nodes, which are the divine confusion and genius in the chart. So then we get into things like the important calculations. This is also important. After we organize all of the specifics, planets, signs, houses, nakshatras, again, we're still gathering the right information. Then we have to start getting into the correct calculations. For instance, aspects. That's a calculation. This is how all of these principles start to talk with each other. Aspects, very important, how the planets speak with each other. It shows our inner strengths and conflicts. Some are one way, some are mutual, some dominate others. Then house rulerships, very important calculation that you need to make, very important in understanding the intelligence of our karmas, whether things unfold smoothly or with obstruction. Then retrograding combustion, important calculation. Things get purified when they're combust, they can be confusing when retrograde. All of these things I'll go into in this video, the 4th video. Then the dignities, level of intelligence, affirmation of principles, more than just exalted and debilitated. For you students, they focus, you will tend to focus on exalted, debilitated. That's one of the dignities, just one thing. It's a lot more than just that. And then yogas, important placements. The different connections of power and of weakness shows a lot of nuance and all kinds of things that happen. So that video on calculations you'll want to show up for, so important in being one of the spokes in the wheel, that 4th spoke in the wheel. Then the 5th spoke in the astrology wheel is priority and sequence. So after we've done all these calculations,
we need to prioritize them. We need to prioritize all of that stuff. Then this will show us the distinction between what happens and why. Sometimes we get something we want, but we don't even know why we want it. Why difficult things still can benefit us. So results versus meaning, that big category in video 5 of priority and sequence, results versus meaning. Then there are things like Viparit yogas. These are just some examples. More subtlety, which shows a difficult ruler in a difficult house. Nichabanga, another thing we need to prioritize, which is reversing that debility, for example, shows more subtlety. Karma's ripening. We need to put things in the right priority and do them at the right time so that we can see when karmas ripen, why they ripen a certain way. Again, based on yogas and dignities, based on transits, planets as nakshatra rulers, and then the ratio of importance. All things are not created equal. Know where to start reading the chart. The use of templates and systems. Overcome, overwhelm. So again, you can just start gathering a bunch of details and stuff back here and back here, all of these details. It can be overwhelming. So after planet signs, nakshatras, and calculations, then we need to get into this, as I said, this priority and sequence. Very important for anything that you've learned. You've got to gather all those details, but everything's not as important as everything else. So again, these are very meaty, important videos that are going to help your astrology scholarship. Whether you study with me or not, or if you go on to get certified or not, you'll want to make sure and stay tuned. Then the 6th spoke in the astrological wheel is research, case studies. So after you learn to prioritize and sequence things, then you need to start researching and looking at things much more scientifically. So one way to do that is watch the daily astrology. So you notice the news, notice personal changes in yourself each day, notice the effects on others each day. Again, I'm going to talk about all this in a whole video where I research, where I show you how to research and do case studies. Expanding, deepening your connection to the cosmos. As you start to research and look at things more than just your chart or your family, then you're going to expand and deepen your connection to the cosmos. Like I said at the beginning of the video, when I talked about how my students now have a very good answer to those questions of who am I? Why am I here? Why is any of this here? Well, you can hear me show you things and talk about things, but it doesn't become actual until you start to do research and case studies yourself. Then, as you expand and deepen your connection to the cosmos, then you also connect to your intuition much more. Again, you have to connect astrology to your intuition. No matter what I teach you, you have to connect it to your own experience, and that's what research and case studies do. And as I said, looking at more than just your chart or others that you're familiar with. Often what happens is people start to learn astrology, and it's just an excuse for them to obsess over their chart and worry about their kids, and worry about their kids' chart. So again, you need to get out of that if you're going to actually learn it, and learn more about who you are and who your kids are and all of that. So again, all of this allows you to test the theories, see you and your family with more objectivity, watch the daily astrology, go deeper than just your emotions. Again, that's how we often experience our intuition, is just our emotions and all. But when you start to research and do astrology, you connect to your intuition on a much deeper level because it starts to expand towards a sort of cosmic intuition that can really deepen your meditation, and you can pass that depth on to others. So many things start to change once you get at this section of astrological scholarship, especially within my course, because these are very important parts of, the later part of my course is to really teach people how to research, teach people how to take it to the next level. And I'm going to, describe that in an entire video. And that leads to practice, application. So again, once you start practicing and applying it, it leads to you being a full-time astrologer, and it starts to really connect all of that data that you're gathering to your speech and your voice, and you can get ready to practice full-time. Start having good conversations immediately. See, people are having astrology conversations anyway, so you can enter those conversations now with much more depth and much more practical experience. So I teach you in the course how to start practicing and taking those, that research and case studies and bringing it into a certain practice that allows you to build on what you're doing and not just stay stuck in it. So again, then that makes astrology your practice, where you find your voice. Make sure to look for that video where I talk about how to deepen your practice. Again, whether you study with me or not, this will be very valuable for you, and it'll be a good way for you to measure your progress and see how, if all of your, as I said, online snacking is really benefiting you or not. And then finally, the eighth spoke in learning astrology, you see this is a big one, is I have the community and the member site. So with my certification course, there's a online exclusive member site where it's really the nexus around how everything revolves. First of all, the courses have been vetted over time. So this course has been taught for 5+ years, close to 200 graduates, amazing testimonials from students. So again, the course itself and the member site that really serves that course has all been vetted and done many times over now. And of course the courses are themselves really delivered conveniently. You're not overwhelmed, like one course a week, and then every 3 weeks we have conference call. Very reasonable pace. If you can dedicate 2 to 3 hours per week to learn, you can within 9 or 10 months really be doing readings confidently, even making a living at it if you apply yourself. Great opportunity for students, and again, literally to actually work at the school, grading homework and more. It's actually paid. I actually pay my level 1 students to be tutors for the next year. You can even be a journalist for the school. And as I said as well, the courses are also delivered in the correct order. So not just delivered conveniently, but also in the right order. We start with the things I started with at the beginning of this presentation, with the history of astrology, then with the frameworks, gunas, elements, purusarthas, all of that, then how those frameworks are related to planet signs, houses, nakshatras, then how those things filter down into important calculations, then how those calculations become priority and sequence, etc. So it's all unfolded in the correct order. I've been doing it now for close to 10 years. Like I said at the beginning of the video, I focus most of my time now on being a better teacher because I've learned how to do it myself really well. Now most of my life's work revolves around learning how to teach you to do it so that your success is just as easy as, like I said, eating. I've really been studying more than anything else how to engineer your success, and that's what you see in the certification course. And also there's a thing called satsang, higher vibration community. When you're in the course itself, it's not a YouTube chat group or Facebook with a bunch of competing opinions. You're in an online educational forum experience with an extremely high vibration. Everyone there only focused on learning astrology. No distractions, no arguments, none of this drama that you see online. So and again, it's intentional that way because we've done this now 4 or 5 years straight. So you get all of your questions answered, and you also get an accurate comparison of your skills. And this is very important because many times people think they want to learn with the teacher one-on-one, right? One-on-one, you and me. Well, first of all, if you were to learn one-on-one with me, I would teach you exactly the same things that I teach in the certification course in exactly the same order. But when you're in a group experience, it's really best that you compare yourself with other students, not with the teachers. So this is really good for your confidence as well. Not only that, but it's easier to learn with that kind of accurate evaluation rather than comparing yourself with the teacher and always feeling like you're, sort of lacking. So those are a few very important reasons to look over the next few weeks as I release these videos that have to do with the 8 spokes.
Okay, so that's it. I hope you really liked this video. I loved making it for you. Go ahead and leave a message and give me an example of times in your life when you've used these 3 crucial steps. Think about it. Think intentionally about it besides eating, because I already gave you that one. Think of a time when you've used the universal principles. What were they? What were the techniques that got you to the outcomes that you wanted? Remember, principles are like gravity, distance, speed. Techniques are like, getting on a horse. buying a refrigerator, doing something that's going to allow you to get the outcome you wanted, which is like actually satisfying the hunger, and then that's how you measure your success. So think about something in your life that I haven't, and leave a message there. Also share this with others. Again, I'm going to be making 8 videos that go over each of the things in great detail on the 8 spokes of the astrology wheel handout. As you see, it's very extensive, a very extensive mind map, and your astrology friends will thank you for sharing that with them. So have a great day.